Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where I'm actually going to revisit the puzzle that I solved yesterday on the channel, which was a viewer requested, very hard Sudoku puzzle that featured something called a finned X-wing at the end. And we had a very good question on the video, noting that at the point that we found the finned X-wing, something else was going on. So let's just remind ourselves of where we were up to in the solve. We'd had to do a lot of work. We discovered this 2-5 double in column 6, and we discovered a 5-7-8 triple in column 8. And I'd started to think about X-wings as a result of the fact I noticed in row 8 here that there's only very limited places now that we can put a 5. Because of this 5 here, I've got pencil mark 5s here. 5 is limited to this square or this square in row 8. And then we moved up and had a look at row 3. And again, the 5 is here. And then I sort of shorthanded it from here because I didn't really focus on where the 5 could go here. I simply noted that there were 3 open spaces for the 5s in this top right 3x3 block. And I talked a bit about the finned X-wing logic and why it results in us being able to remove the 5 from here. And the question that we got asked was, well, hang on, Simon, you'd already got a 5-7-8 triple in row 8 here, so you knew, or if I'd thought about it, I would have been able to state unequivocally that there was no 5 in this position. And therefore, how did that affect the logic that you used? Was that logic that you used invalid? So have a pause of the video and ponder that for yourselves for a moment, and I'll explain why it isn't invalid. In fact, it's an even more esoteric version of the finned X-wing. I think it's called a Sashimi finned X-wing. And Sashimi is a Sudoku term used to indicate that the number that's interesting and in question here, which is what can go in this cell here, actually doesn't have to be a 5 at all. And in fact, the best way to illustrate the logic is for me to put a number into this cell. So now we've got a big number in. So you might say, well, how on earth is this now an X-wing? Well, actually it still is. So let's go through the logic that we did last time and see what happens, knowing as we do that this fourth corner of the X-wing now, we've got the 5s in the other 3 corners, and I'm going to actually just say this cannot be a 5, and indeed we have a large number in the cell, which is not a 5. Does our logic still hold? Well, let's go through it. So option 1 would be that in the final solution we'd find that this square was a 5. Well, if this square was a 5, it's very easy to see this won't be a 5, and we'd be able to remove the 5 up here. Similarly, for this, the other fin, if this is a 5, then again we can remove the 5. So everything is very simple if either of the fins is a 5. What happens if the fins are not 5s? What would the implication of that be? And this is where the X-wing does come into play, and you only need 2 corners of the X-wing for this to work. So let me show you why. So if neither of these fins is true, neither of these fins is a 5, where can we place a 5 in row 3? Well, there's only one square left, and that's here. Now, if this is a 5, looking down at row 8 again, we know this won't be a 5. It's impossible. We'd be able to remove this 5. Now ask yourselves the question, where can the 5 go in row 8? Well, there's only one position, and that's here. So this square would have to be the 5, and either way round, you'll have noted now we're able to remove the 5 from this square. And in this sort of second iteration of this, where the fins are not true, it comes from the fact that the other 3 corners of the X-wing, if you like, are then brought into play into the logic. That gives us a 5 up here, gives us a 5 here, and allows us to still make the same deduction we're interested in making. So, lovely question, very good question, but no, it doesn't affect the logic, and that's why I got excited during the solve. If you rewatch the video, you can see that as soon as I spot we've got 3 corners of the X-wing, I'm not really interested in where the 5 can go in these 3 positions, because it doesn't matter. So thanks for watching. I hope this was a useful refresher. Keep the questions coming, keep the Sudoku requests coming in terms of difficult puzzles you'd like to see us solve, because this was an absolute cracker. And we'll see you again next time on Cracking the Cryptic.